तक और सीनों में कुरान पलता रहा। जर्रे जर्रे में अल्लाहु अकबर लिए खुश नसीबी है मैं साहिबे दीन हूँ। मैं फ़लस्तीन हूँ, मैं फ़लस्तीन हूँ, मैं फ़लस्तीन हूँ, मैं फ़लस्तीन हूँ। ये मेरी कौम के हुक्मरां भी सुने, मेरी उजरी हुई दास्तां भी सुने। जो मुझे मुल्क तक मानते ही नहीं, जो मुझे मुल्क तक मानते ही नहीं, सारी दुनिया के वो रहनुमा भी सुने। सिर्फ लाशें ही लाशें मेरी गोद में, सिर्फ लाशें ही लाशें मेरी गोद में। कोई पूछे मैं क्यों इतना गमगीन हो, मैं फ़लस्तीन हूँ, मैं फ़लस्तीन हूँ, मैं फ़लस्तीन हूँ, मैं फ़लस्तीन हूँ। दिल पे कलमे की ज़रब लगा, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। दिल पे कलमे की ज़रब लगा, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। पढ़िए, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह टुगेदर, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। दिल पे कलमे की ज़रब लगा, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। सब कायनात का खालिक अल्लाह, सब कायनात का खालिक अल्लाह। तेरा मेरा मालिक अल्लाह, तेरा मेरा मालिक अल्लाह। सबके राज़िक, सबके राज़िक एक खुदा, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। दिल पे कलमे की ज़रब लगा, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह।
brothers in Toronto are not prepared from beforehand. We usually like to do a test run and have it ready. MashaAllah, these guys run on tawakkul. It's important we can see the presentation, so then the actual expansion and the maps and the plans, so we can get a better idea. Is it going to work? Okay, I'll make a stop, otherwise we won't have enough time. Alhamdulillah, wa kafa wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina istafa, amma ba'd. فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الذين قالوا ربنا الله ثم استقاموا تتنزل عليهم الملائكة ألا تخافوا ولا تحزنوا وأبشروا بالجنة التي كنتم توعدون. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم المسلمون كرجل واحد إن اشتكى عينه اشتكى كله وإن اشتكى رأسه اشتكى كله. صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم. Respected brothers and elders, today I want to talk to you about the topic of Palestine. Obviously everybody is aware with the situation and what is happening. So my focus today is not going to be on Gaza itself, but it is going to be around Al-Quds. Just so I can get an idea, has hands up anybody who's been to Al-Quds from here? One, two. Just one? Anybody from this side? Okay, not many. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so first of all, where is Palestine? Okay, so I think it's important we understand the actual location on the map of the world where Palestine is located. So Palestine is located in between the African continent, and then on the eastern side you have the Middle East. So you've got Jordan, Saudi Arabia, etc. on the eastern side, and then on the western side, we've got Africa. So it's sandwiched in between, and then towards the north you have Turkey, and then you have the rest of Europe. Okay, so it's more or less central, so to speak, in a very good strategic position. Now this is very important. Okay, so we try and I want you to park this in the side of your mind, because later on we're going to come back to this. Okay, so the question is, we've got Joe Smith, who's down the road here in Toronto, and he's wondering, why are the events in Palestine affecting the Muslims so much? Why is it that when there's problems in Syria, then the Muslims don't jump up and down as much? Why is it when there's problems in Turkey or in anywhere else in the world that the Muslims are not as vocal, as loud, etc.? But why is it when it comes to Palestine, everyone becomes so emotional and so attached, and everybody feels the need to express themselves? So this is something which they cannot understand. Okay, but it's very important that we ourselves understand the significance of the land of Palestine as well. Okay, so Palestine forms, it's part of the actual land, the surrounding land is the land of Sham. Okay, so Sham includes Lebanon, Syria, Jordan. Some scholars say parts of Iraq. Some say parts of Turkey as well. So this is all included within the land of Sham. Okay, we're getting there. Better late than never. Abdul Hafiz. Lights. I think the guys at the back will have supersonic eyesight. You might want to come closer if you want to see, or if you just want to listen, you're welcome to stay at the back. No. Okay, it's all right. You'll have to do. Just go to the next slide. Okay, next one. Did these lights go off? No, go back. Yeah. Okay. So I was saying that the land of Sham includes, we've got Palestine, Jordan, Syria, parts of Iraq, parts of Turkey. So this is all included in the land of Sham. Okay? So there's a hadith where Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says, "Alayka bisham fa innaha khiyaratullahi min ardihi yajtabi ilayha khiyaratahu min ibadihi." That go to Syria, meaning go to Sham, for it is Allah's chosen land to which His best servants will be gathered. And there are many places where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to the land of Sham actually in the glorious Quran. So there's actually, our scholars say, there's about 70 places in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself makes reference to the blessed land of Sham. So this shows us how important this land is. Next slide. So these are just some examples from the Quran where Allah Ta'ala says, وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ وَلُوتًا إِلَى الْأَرْضِ الَّتِي بَارَكْنَا فِيهَا لِلْعَالَمِينَ. So Allah Ta'ala refers to Ibrahim alayhi salam and his nephew Lut alayhi salam, and talking about guiding him to the land. Okay, so this land where they were guided to was actually the land of Sham. Underneath, Ya qawm idkhulul ard al muqaddasata allati. Okay, or people. So this is referring to the Bani Israel that enter the holy land, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised for you. So again, this is another reference to the land of Sham. Next slide. And then with regards to Fir'aun, وَقُلْنَا مِن بَعْدِهِ لِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ اسْكُنُوا الْأَرْضِ. So after his death, we told the children of Bani Israel that live in the land. So this ard which is mentioned, the Mufassirin, they say this is the land of Sham. And then finally, the most famous, which we hear time and time again from the 15th para, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa alladhi barakna hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself specifically mentions Masjid al-Aqsa, but then as well as this, he mentions the surrounding land, referring to the land of Sham. So it's important we understand that this blessed land of Sham is very, very important for us believers. Okay? And all the more reason because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed Baytul Maqdis, al-Masjid al-Aqsa, at the center inside this land. Okay, so the question is, why is Masjid al-Aqsa so special to us as believers, as mu'mineen? Why is it so special? So this area where Masjid al-Aqsa is located is important to all three Abrahamic religions. So you've got Christianity, Judaism, and Islam as well. Okay, for us, number one, it's the first Qibla. Okay, for 14 years, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to pray towards Baytul Maqdis. At times, he would go to the Rukn Yamani side, and then so he would have the Kaaba in front of him, and then he would be facing towards Masjid al-Aqsa. And other times, he would be where he was on a different side, then the Kaaba would be behind him, and Masjid al-Aqsa was. So this was for 14 years. Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was praying towards this. And you've got to remember that all of this is for a particular reason. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to teach you and I, who was to come afterwards, the importance and the significance of Masjid al-Aqsa. So the first Qibla and the second masjid to be built on the face of this earth. First was Masjid al-Haram, and then 40 years afterwards, it was built by either Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam or the Malaika. Okay, so 40 years after the first masjid, Baytul Haram, was built, Haram al-Makki in Makkah al-Mukarramah, the Kaaba, and then after that was built Masjid al-Aqsa. And number three, it is the third holiest place in Islam. Okay, so first is Makkah al-Mukarramah, then Madinatul Munawwara, and then we've got Masjid al-Aqsa. So this is what makes it so important. To further emphasize the importance of Masjid al-Aqsa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam on the spiritual journey of Isra and Mi'raj. This was a time when Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam was going through a difficult time, and to give him some tasalli, he was brought to Masjid al-Aqsa, and then he was taken up to the heavens, to the Sidratul Muntaha, and then, there's great detail of the events that unfolded in the heavens. But what is significant is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have taken him straight, directly from the house of Hani radiallahu anha, straight to the heavens. But again, to show the importance to you and I, he was taken to Baytul Maqdis, and there the Buraq was tied up on his return. Also, Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he led the salah of all the Anbiya Kiram alayhimus salam. This is the only place in the whole world where the namaz, where the salah has taken place of all the Anbiya Kiram in one place, and this land was chosen where this would happen. So this shows us the great and the significant importance that this blessed land is. G. As well as this, there are many, many prophets buried inside the land of Palestine, in the land of Sham. So we have, for example, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and his whole family. His wife, Sarah alayhi salam, then his children, Ishaq alayhi salam, and then his wife, Hazrat Rifqa alayhi salam, Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam, then Nabi Yusha alayhi salam. Just the list is endless. So many prophets are buried in this blessed land. Together with this, the amount of Sahaba Kiram who are there is in their thousands. Okay? G. So that was a brief introduction as to why it's the actual land of Palestine is significant and important to us as believers. Okay, so the question is, why the resistance? Okay, so we need to understand that the events that unfolded on October the 7th, my dear friends, what happened after that, the problems didn't start on October the 7th, okay? These problems have been taking place approximately 75 years ago. This is where it all began, okay? So initially, we had the Crusaders, okay? So Sultan Salahuddin Ayyubi, he conquered Palestine from the Christian Crusaders. When the battle took place, then Masjid al-Aqsa was liberated, and then once again it fell into the Crusader hands. So like this, there was multiple exchanges between the Muslims and the Christians. Okay? So this was in the early days. So what's important to understand that in this period of time, there was only small pockets of Jews living inside the land of Palestine, the same way they were living in the land of Arabia, in the land of Syria. So like this, there were small pockets of Jews. There was no significant community, there was no large areas, nothing like that, but there were just small pockets, okay? So this land was actually inhabited by local people, local Arab people, local Palestinians. So then what happened is the term Zionists will have heard about these. Okay, so this is a certain group who wanted a national home for the Jewish people. So what they said is, look, everyone else has their own country. We want one for our own selves. So in approximately 1897, the World Zionist Organization was established, and then they started to make plans. So then World War I happened, so nothing really materialized. But then after this, when the British came into power and they were occupying the Middle East, so we had the land of Sham, the British and the French, they were all, rulers of this. Then what happened as time progressed, these, next slide, sorry. Okay, yeah, so then the British decided that, look, okay, we're gonna do something for you. So pressure was put on them, and then decided, okay, we'll take some steps. So they offered them different countries. Argentina was on the cards. There was a country in Africa. Uganda was on the cards. They said no. Then Palestine was offered. So then a secret deal was made, and they agreed that, okay, this land seems perfect. And Europe had a problem. Okay, because of the World War and because of Hitler coming and trying to exterminate the Jews, so the Jews were fleeing Germany, so there were thousands of Jews. Now, the Europeans, the British, they didn't want the Jews. So they said, look, this is going to be a problem for us. So what better than for us to ship them off to somewhere else? And what better place? We've got the perfect place where this land of Palestine was under their control. So what they did is, at the time, the whole land of Sham was under their control, so they had Syria. So this Sham was split into multiple countries. So then the land of Hijaz, for example, was split and was given to the tribe of Banu Saud, which is the current ruling family, and it was renamed Saudi Arabia after the Saud family. Okay, so originally it was ruled by the Hashemites, okay, the Banu Hashim, this particular area, and they were kicked out and they were sent to Jordan. So when you go to Jordan, the actual full name of Jordan is the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. So they are actually from the Banu Hashim. So the current rulers, King Abdullah and his father, etc., they're all Sayyids, and they were originally the rulers of Mecca and that Medina Munawwara as well, but then they were kicked out by the British, and then the Alawites, they were given Syria. So like this, it was all apportioned to different Arabian tribes once the Ottoman Empire, once that collapsed and fell. So Palestine, what they did is the British kept it for themselves, okay? So they kept it for themselves, and because they had already made a deal with the Zionists that, okay, this is a country which will be perfect to be inhabited by the Jews going forward. Okay. So this famous Balfour Declaration was made. Okay. So in this declaration was one of the chief ministers in England. So he says that the red box, if you read it carefully, you'll be able to see His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. Okay. So this was a deal, and it was a done deal. So the question is, what about the people who are living there? Yeah, there's people living there, so how can you just suddenly turn up and say this is going to be now ruled by somebody else? Nevertheless, this happened. Okay, so so initially the population of Palestine was approximately 700,000. Okay, local Palestinians living there, Bedouin tribes and Muslims, mashallah, very pious, Deendar. You know, they were practicing Muslims, and they did well to, you know, honor Masjid al-Aqsa as well and look after it, etc. And the Jewish population was approximately about 7%, okay, of Jews, and they used to live with the Muslims, you know, with no issues and nothing at all, okay. Then, obviously, as time progressed, the British started ferrying the Jews over from Europe, okay. So this mass migration continued, and then it continued to such a level where, if you just go back one slide, back again, so back. Okay, so can you see in green here? This is the land inhabited by the Palestinians, and the blue is hardly visible, where you can see small pockets of Jewish Jewish tribes living, Jewish communities. Okay, and then as we move forward in time, next one. Okay, so as time progressed, and then we came to 1948. So the British are still encouraging the Jews to come over to start inhabiting the land. We had the expulsion of the Palestinians. By this time, what had happened is the actual Jewish immigrants who had come, they had become large in number. They were protected by the British. They were well equipped, everything, and they even had enough to make their own army. Okay, so then they set up a military, and approximately 70,000 officers they had in their military. So you can see within the space of 30 years how established they had become. Okay, things were moving very, very fast. And with the aid of the military, what they started then is expelling the Palestinians. And it was just a case of turning up on these areas of land, laying claim to them, and the Palestinian farmers, the peasants, they did not have their own army as such, because they were ruled previously by the Ottomans. So the Ottomans had everything. But once the Ottomans left, there was nothing left for them. So they would come and they would say, you either leave or we'll kill you. And like this, many, many thousands were massacred, and many fled their ancestral homes. So we've got to understand that these were ancestral homes, ancestral lands, for generations had been kept by one family, and they are now being forced to completely disappear from here. So 750,000 Palestinians were captured. Okay, and by 1948, we can see how the green has shrunk and to become surrounded by blue. 78% of historic Palestine was lost. And the remaining 22%, okay, was then divided into, on the western side, you've got Gaza, and then on the eastern side, you've got the West Bank. So these were two areas which were allocated to the Muslims. G. Okay. So you will have heard of the Nakba, okay, the catastrophe. So in this, as this emigration is happening at full force, there were many, many massacres occurring, okay, in Palestine. So we had over 13,000 killed. We had 530 villages completely destroyed, and 750,000 completely were displaced, and they had to flee their own country. Okay, so then the land of Israel was officially declared on Palestine by this time. G, if you go to the next slide. So in 1967, Israel then occupies Gaza and the West Bank. So now what's happening is Israel is spreading and is expanding down below towards Egypt and then up north towards the Syrian Golan Heights as well. So during the 1967 war, Israel occupied all of historic Palestine and then expelled a further 300,000 Palestinians from their homes. Okay, so you can see now large numbers of Palestinians. Previously, 700,000, 300,000. Time is progressing, and as time is progressing, the incursions are increasing more and more. Many Palestinians are killed, mass graves, complete, just utter disregard, and there's complete silence in the world. Okay? G. You'll have seen this separation wall which they built. Up to 8 meters high, this wall is. Okay, and the distance it goes around Palestine is approximately 700 kilometers. So heavily invested in this wall. And what they've done is they've completely isolated communities and areas and taken the best and the most fertile lands have been placed in the Jewish sections, and the not so fertile lands have been left on the Palestinian side. So you have communities which are completely separated, and it's just, for them, you are unable to go from one side to the other without passing through a checkpoint. And the checkpoint, again, it's all about control. This is what they wanted. It's controlling the Palestinian people to restrict them and to try and suffocate them as much as they can. So 85% of the wall actually falls within the West Bank. Okay, so we can see the West Bank, so they're almost like trapped in that area. And then you've got the Gaza Strip itself, so that later on we'll see how it works over there. G, okay, next slide. So by 2020, the Israeli settlements, so it wasn't enough that they had taken most of Palestine and the West Bank was allocated to the Muslims and the Gaza Strip. Then what they did is all the troublemakers, all the rough guys, all the thugs, etc., these settlers, they placed them inside these West Bank areas. So they would create little settlements. So then within the Muslim areas, again, you had population of the Jews as well. So you had 600,000 up to 750,000 illegal settlers living in the West Bank. Okay, so you've got 250 settlements, and these are the settlements which are regarded as illegal under international law. Okay, next point. So the checkpoints. So within the West Bank itself, there's over 700 road obstacles, including 140 checkpoints. So you can see how within the so-called Muslim area, life is restricted as well, okay? And approximately 70,000 Palestinians with Israeli work permits, they have to cross these checkpoints on a daily basis. So these are the laborers, the local Palestinian laborers working for Israeli, for example, construction firms, building firms, etc. So then they have to cross these checkpoints to try and get. And these checkpoints are manned by the army, and they decide who goes through, who doesn't go through. No reason, they don't have to give you a reason if they don't want you to go through. Life is very, very difficult. A journey for you and I, what would take here 10 minutes can take easily up to 2-3 hours. Okay, there have been many cases where women, pregnant women, who are on the verge of delivery, need to get to the hospital, but the checkpoints and the officers, knowing in this ambulance is a woman who is about to deliver a baby, on purpose they will stop that ambulance and delay it. And there have been cases where women have given birth at actual checkpoints. Okay, then you have the humiliation of, for example, children going to school, those who are going to study. So you'll have little children like this with their rucksacks. They'll make them empty their rucksacks, everything, check their pencils, crayons, books and everything, and then load it back up and then let them go like this. So it's just daily humiliation, daily squeezing them and just pushing them right to the edge. Okay, next. So the Palestinian refugee camps, okay? So the irony is that we have now refugees inside their own country, okay? So it's unheard of anywhere else in the world where a person has become a refugee in his own country. So there's approximately 1.5 million Palestinian refugees living in the 58 official refugee camps located throughout Palestine and the neighboring countries. And the plight of the Palestinian refugees is the longest unresolved refugee problem in the world. So this is where you might have heard of the Palestinian March of the Right of Return, what was happening a while ago. So they would, every Friday after Jummah, they would go to the border and asking for their right of return, meaning they would want to go back to their original houses, their family houses, what had been taken off them and what had been completely destroyed. Okay. So where are the Palestinians today? So there's about 13 million Palestinians around the world. Half of them live in historic Palestine, and the rest have had to go elsewhere. So if you look at, for example, in the Arab countries, we've got 5.6 million, Jordan and Lebanon, full of Palestinians who have had to flee. Other countries, 0.7 million. And then within Palestine, there only remains, we've got Palestinian citizens of Israel. Okay, so these are a small number, and they call them Palestinian citizens of Israel, but they don't have the full rights as an actual Israeli. Okay, so they have, again, very, very limited rights. And those in the West Bank, their rights are completely less than half for that. Okay, next. So initially, we had 100% historic Palestine in green. 1947, 44% of original Palestine remained. And then 1967, 22%. And the last one was done in 2020, where only 15% remains. So can you see how the country has completely shrunk? Now, if you look at the maps now, then, for example, the printed maps, even the Collins world-famous maps, if you look at them, you will not see Palestine, you will see Israel written. So what they have done is very cleverly, they have tried to erase slowly over time the actual Palestine to ensure that, hoping that people forget. Okay. So, with regards to the Gaza Strip, okay, yeah. So actual, the land of Gaza is 25 miles long and 7 miles wide, okay? So it's not very big. And in there, we've got a population of 2.3 million, okay? So this is the world's largest prison camp, okay? And the people in here are in a dire situation. Okay, next slide. So prior to October 7, these were some of the figures that we had. So the water in Gaza is approximately, okay, so I'll give you some statistics. Okay, so within Gaza, there's approximately 3/4 of the people, they require handouts, okay? And the reason is because handouts meaning food and stuff. And the reason is because they are unable to leave Gaza to go to work. So there's no income for these families. So they are completely reliant on the international aid which comes through. They get 4 hours, well, they used to get 4 hours of electricity, okay, before, in a day. There was 45% unemployed, 96% of the tap water was undrinkable, and then they would get water for 6 hours every 4 days, okay? So the water that was given to them, they had a 6-hour slot in which this, how many did we say? 2.3 million people have to fill up their water in 6 hours every 4 days. So you can imagine the queues and the struggle to try and get some water for your family. And as if this wasn't enough, so the Israeli government, this is what they did. So what they did is they specifically asked, so this is actual fact, this is written in a report, where they wanted to find out from the United Nations what is the minimum allowance of calories they can give to a human being so as not to be prosecuted for malnourishment, okay? So basically they wanted to give them, ensure, so that they're not prosecuted, they wanted to, when the aid does come through, they wanted to restrict it so much to ensure that it would be the actual minimum. So they would calculate, this is the population, okay, and say the normal consumption of calories for an adult is 2,000 calories per day. The minimum, 1,000 calories. So then they would say, okay, 1,000 calories, this is what we will allow aid. So they would calculate it by truckloads. And even when it was, for example, 250 truckloads, even then the full 250 would not go through. So this is the amount of level of oppression that would regularly take place. Okay, next. This is just daily life in Palestine. It's just no big deal. This is queuing just to go to work, go to school, go to visit relatives, etc. Carry on. Okay, so this was before the war. Now it's just a complete different story. Okay, just to give you an idea, the white phosphorus bombs which are used. Okay, so these white phosphorus bombs which are used, which are illegal under international law, so they work like sparklers. You know how the children, they have the sparklers and the little flames come out and they spread out? So it works like that. And these, they burn at 600 degrees. Okay, 600 degrees, which is enough to melt steel. Buildings reduced to rubble, concrete just turns into liquid. And these are used on human beings. So you can imagine the pain straight through to the bone, just completely disintegrating the actual population. So, and this is the kind of equipment that was used against the Muslims there. Okay, carry on. The next slide. So all of this aggression, etc., okay, whether it's in the Gaza Strip, whether it's in the West Bank, etc., the main maqsad for this is the prized possession is Masjid al-Aqsa. Okay, this is what they want. They want to destroy the actual Golden Dome, and they want to build their temple over there. So just recently, you can check this. So as part of their ceremony, part of their ritual, that for them to be able to destroy Masjid al-Aqsa, before that, they have to sacrifice 5 cows. Okay, these are known as the red heifers. And these 5 cows have to be a certain color. This color has to be like a brownish color, and they have to be approximately 2 years old, these calves, 2 years old, with no other color hair. So it has to be perfect. So for years and years, they've been waiting and trying to breed these cows, these calves, so they can perform this sacrifice. Recently, then what they did, they resorted to genetics, working with genetics and crossbreeding, etc. And finally, they were able to, they found these cows in Texas, in America. Okay, so they found a big batch of them, but then as they grew older, then this batch, different colors, for example, a few white hairs appeared or a few black hairs appeared. Because of that, they would be completely discounted. So according to the Torah, it says that this cow has to be perfect. So now they found five cows which met the perfect description. So they were shipped over from America to Israel. So they are now in Israel, and they are kept in a secret location. They are waiting for this date. Okay, now this date is where they will perform the sacrifice. They don't need 5, they just need 1. So this sacrifice they will perform, providing on this date the cow is, the rabbis, the chief rabbis, they pass and they say, yep, it's the perfect description, 2 years old, no blemish, it's not been milked, it's not been working the ground, nothing like this. Okay, and then this cow will be on the Mount of Olives, will be sacrificed. Once this sacrifice happens, then you will see the settlers at the moment, they are coming into Masjid al-Aqsa in the morning time. They are given a slot, 3 hours under protection of the army. They come and they perform just other rituals. But part of their religion is they're not allowed to go near the Dome of the Rock, so they do it from far. But once they have performed this sacrifice, they are then allowed to go inside. So this is the next stage. So this is, some say, next week, on next Saturday, their Sabbath falls. And this could be the date when this sacrifice is made. Or, if it's not then they're saying it could be around April, yeah? In April between 20th and 28th. Okay, so just watch the news for this, and you will see when this happens, then the trouble is going to erupt even more, and things are going to take a nasty turn. Because at the moment, what they're doing is attention is focused towards Gaza, because they're trying to ensure that this sacrifice that's going to happen, attention is not placed towards here. Okay, so I was there in this February, so a few weeks ago, I went there. So when we went, there was a few things which we noticed. Number one, obviously it was quiet, yeah, not many people there. Okay. Second thing we also noticed is that obviously the Palestinians of Jerusalem and the West Bank, they're really struggling. So now those laborers who had the jobs as builders, etc., they have now been completely, all their work permits have been invalidated. So there's now no jobs for them at all. And what they've done is they have shipped over people from India. So first time, so I've been going for about 20 years. Okay, we go regularly with groups. So this was the first time I've seen on the streets of Jerusalem Hindus walking, Indians walking, and just casually walking. And these are the people who they brought over to do the labor work in Palestine. So can you see how fast things are moving there? and how they are looking to completely destroy the Palestinian people. And the people are very, very much in need of, our support and our help in whatever way we can, whether it's financially, obviously with the du'as and stuff as well. Okay. I'm just going to end on this, okay? So what is our role and our duty? Next slide. So as believers, we turn to the Quran. And those lives who have been lost, the innocent children, the women, the men, all these families who have passed away, Allah Ta'ala, He reminds us in the Quran that إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ, that those people who say that our Lord is Allah, this was their only crime. ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا, and they remain firm. تَتَنَزَّلُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمَلَائِكَةُ, the angels descend upon them. أَلَّا تَخَافُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا, that have no fear, do not despair. وَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ, glad tidings of paradise is for you, which you have been promised. So these people, alhamdulillah, they are in Jannah. We believe our martyrs, they are enjoying the fruits of paradise. But what about you and me who are left behind? Allah Ta'ala gives us tasalli as well, where He tells us, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ. So Allah Ta'ala says that, don't despair, don't lose hope, that you shall be superior over your enemies as well, if you are believers. So for us, it's very important that we remain steadfast on our deen. And we will have heard time and time again, from our scholars, where they tell us, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا ظَهَرَ الْفَسَادُ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ. So calamities have appeared throughout the land and sea because of what the hands of people have earned, meaning because of the actions of people. Our actions here in Toronto or wherever we may be in the world, every action has a reaction. So my dear friends, my dear brothers, if we are on the straight path, if we are following the deen, the ahkamat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the decisions which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which comes down, then this is also will be favorable towards the Muslims. You've got to remember that the Kaaba in Mecca, this is divinely protected, okay? And we've seen an example where Abraha came with his elephants, yes? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He divinely protected through the ababil, the small birds, okay? But Masjid al-Aqsa is not divinely protected. Masjid al-Aqsa is in the hands of you and I, my dear friends. Where our actions, what our state will be as an ummah, that will be the situation of Masjid al-Aqsa. So this is why it's very important that this problem of Palestine and Masjid al-Aqsa is not just a problem of the Palestinians. It's the problem of the ummah as a whole. Okay, and it's very, very important that we understand this importance. A janazah passed by once. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was there with his sahabas. I'll just end on this note that a janazah passed by. And Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said to the Sahaba kiram, he says, mustarihun aw mustarahun minhu. So the Sahaba kiram radiallahu anhum, they asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, what do you mean by this? Okay, so Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, mustarihun, meaning a believer, he is relieved. Meaning, when a believer passes away, then he is relieved from all the difficulties of the dunya. And the place where he reaches is now a place of relief for him. Whereas, mustarahum minhu, meaning, is that person where other people are relieved from his death. Okay? Or it can be taken to the meaning of where the dunya itself is relieved of this person passing away. Why? Because the person was living a life of disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What would happen is the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would come on the earth. And this is not something which the earth wants. Okay? So as soon as this person passes away, then the earth itself breathes a sigh of relief that, thank God, this person has gone from the face of this earth. Last slide. call to action. Whoever sees, it's a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that whoever sees an evil taking place, then he needs to do something with his hand to try and change it. And if he's unable to do so, then with his tongue. And if he's unable to do so, then with his heart. And this is the weakest form of iman. Okay. Let it not be that when we are resurrected in the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us that when Masjid al-Aqsa was being attacked and was taken away from your hands, as a believer, what did you do? Did you just sit and watch by? Or did you actually take some action? Okay? So what can we do, my dear friends? Number one is tawbah and dua. We give charity. We be the change. We change ourselves. And we also, it's important we educate ourselves as well with what is happening. Okay? Targeted boycotting. In England, we have specific, because the list is endless, hundreds, yeah? So then you just end up thinking, I can't do anything this, because the list is so big. So then we have targeted boycotting. So we have 3 companies which are now specifically targeted. So we've got Coca-Cola, HP, and Puma. Okay, and this boycotting has a serious effect on their economy. The reason is, in the UK, legislation has been passed where companies are not allowed to boycott these companies because it's having such a great impact on them. Can you see? So we might think that what's, one can of Coca-Cola going to do? What's me buying one Hewlett-Packard printer? What difference is that going to make? Me buying one Puma trainers, what difference is that going to make? No, my dear brothers, this makes a massive difference. Okay, and finally, I urge all my brothers here to try and visit Al-Aqsa. Okay, it's very easy to go. The officer, he goes to me when I landed at the terminal. He goes to me. He goes, "Why have you come in the middle of a war?" He says, "Who comes on holiday in the middle of a war?" So I said to him, "When did the war start?" So he goes, "October 7th. I said, "Yes." I said, "I booked my ticket in July." I said, "How was I to know there was going to be a war taking place?" Yeah. And I said, "Is there a problem where we're going in Jerusalem?" He says, "No, there's no problem." So I said, "Then there's no problem, is there?" So like this, we went. Alhamdulillah, we were granted. We were able to pray in Masjid al-Aqsa. We were able to do the ziyarat as well in the West Bank. We went to Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, where his family are buried. Then we went to other places, Bethlehem as well. All these places. So ziyarat we were able to do. And, the Palestinian people were very, very happy to see us, saying that, look, this is the time when we need you guys to come, okay? Not when everything's back to normal and things are hunky-dory, but this is the time when we are struggling the most, and this is the time when you should try and visit, with families and stuff. And inshallah, there shouldn't be a problem going in, and I'll just leave it at this, and inshallah, I hope that all my brothers here will make some intention to try and visit, and I'm sure the tickets are not as expensive as, because it's Israel, you will find that the tickets are normally cheaper. For example, for us to go to Jordan, which is literally half an hour drive, the ticket is double the price, a flight there. But yet the flight to Israel, because of the alliances, etc., £300. So big difference. So maybe for the Canadian dollar, it might be something like this. Anyways, so I'll end it there. Okay. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallah bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Subhanallah.